My wife cheated with her ex, and I found out right before our anniversary. Our 15th wedding anniversary was supposed to be a celebration of everything we'd been through together, our love, our struggles, and the life we'd built. I'd spent months planning every detail, determined to make it perfect. The idea came to me in January, after the hectic holiday season had passed. Sarah had been unusually quiet during Christmas, often retreating to another room with her phone or avoiding conversations about the future. I chalked it up to stress. Her work had been demanding lately, but I felt an ache, a small voice inside whispering that something was missing. So, I threw myself into planning the anniversary, hoping to rekindle the magic. I booked a luxury cabin nestled in the mountains, surrounded by trees that would be bursting with color this time of year. I made reservations at her favorite restaurant, an upscale French bistro where we'd celebrated our 5th anniversary. And then, late at night, I poured my heart into a letter. It wasn't just any letter. I wanted it to capture everything I felt for her. I wrote about the moment I first saw her in that coffee shop, the way her laugh had lit up the room. I wrote about how she'd held my hand during my mother's funeral, a quiet strength that I leaned on when I thought I couldn't stand. I wrote about how she made me a better man, but even as I planned, there was a small, nagging doubt in the back of my mind. Sarah had seemed so distant lately, her smiles feeling more like an obligation than genuine happiness. I told myself it was just my imagination. The night before we were supposed to leave, I was up late finishing some work when I noticed something strange. Sarah's handbag, which she always carried with her, was sitting on the kitchen counter. I had never seen her leave it behind before, especially when she had to run out the door for a quick errand. It sat there like an empty promise, and my mind started to churn. I thought maybe I could just take a quick peek, nothing intrusive, just a curiosity I couldn't shake. I told myself it was harmless. But as I unzipped the bag, a small notebook slipped out. It wasn't hers. I knew it wasn't hers because she had never used a notebook like this one. The cover was simple, unadorned, and looked old, like something you'd pick up in a second-hand bookstore. I opened it carefully, my fingers trembling. The pages were filled with notes, but not just any notes. These were personal, emotional entries, things Sarah would never write in a journal she meant to keep private. The notebook was filled with detailed entries about someone named Mark, her ex-boyfriend. My stomach tightened as I read the words. I miss the way we used to laugh together. Last time was too short, but it was enough to remind me of what we had. I'll make sure the next time we're together will be perfect. You always know just how to make me feel special, Mark. The words hit me like a ton of bricks. My heart sank as I flipped through more pages, each entry more intimate than the last. I had to stop myself from reading more, but the damage was done. There was no denying it. Sarah had been meeting with Mark. They were more than just friends. The realization hit me like a tidal wave. This wasn't just some passing fling. She had been seeing him in secret for months. The thought that my wife had been hiding this from me, lying to my face, made my blood run cold. The worst part? There was no one else to blame. This wasn't some accident or misunderstanding. Sarah had made the choice. She had gone back to Mark behind my back, and now I had undeniable proof. I couldn't just sit there, pretending like everything was fine. I felt the weight of the truth pressing down on me. I was supposed to be celebrating our anniversary in a couple of days, but now, all I could think about was this betrayal. I closed the notebook and shoved it back into the bag, my hands shaking. I wanted to confront Sarah immediately, but I knew I had to wait for the right moment. I couldn't just explode. I had to be calm, at least on the surface. But calm was the furthest thing from my mind. The days leading up to our anniversary were pure torture. I had to pretend everything was fine, pretend that the woman I had married wasn't carrying on a secret affair behind my back. Every time Sarah smiled at me, I felt sick. Her warmth felt like a mask, and every time I looked at her, all I could think about was Mark, her ex, the man she had decided to reignite something with. On the night of our anniversary, we went to the French bistro I had reserved for the special occasion. The atmosphere was beautiful, candlelight, soft music, an elegant setting, but all I could focus on was the lie sitting across from me. I watched her laugh at something I said, but the sound felt hollow, and for the first time in our marriage, I couldn't bring myself to enjoy the evening. Halfway through the meal, I couldn't stand it anymore. I needed to confront her. I had waited long enough. I took a deep breath, gathering every ounce of courage I had left, and asked, "Sarah, is there something you're not telling me?" Her eyes went wide. "What do you mean?" I pulled out the notebook from my jacket, placing it in front of her on the table. "I found this in your bag." Her face turned pale, and for a moment, she didn't say anything. Her hand trembled as she reached for the notebook, but I pulled it back. "I'm not asking for an explanation from this," I said, my voice low. "I'm asking for the truth." She swallowed hard. "Please, don't look at that. It's not what you think." But it was exactly what I thought. I could already see the tears welling up in her eyes, the guilt written all over her face. She wasn't denying it anymore. She had no choice. "I've been seeing Mark," she whispered. "I never wanted you to find out this way. It's been a mistake, and I'm so sorry." Her words felt like a slap in the face. I had no idea what to say, what to feel. It wasn't the fact that she was seeing someone else. It was the fact that she had lied to me for so long. The fact that, after everything we'd been through, she thought I wouldn't find out. "How long?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Months," she admitted, her voice shaking. "It started innocently at first, just talking. But then it became more." I couldn't stop the anger from rising in my chest. "You've been lying to me for months? How could you do this?" "Why?" "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't want to hurt you. I swear I love you. But with Mark, I just felt something again. I thought I was losing myself in the routine of our life. I didn't know how to talk to you about it." My heart ached at her words, but the betrayal was too deep to ignore. "So, instead of talking to me, you decided to go behind my back?" "I'm sorry," she said, crying harder now. "I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you." The pain inside me was unbearable. I wanted to scream, to demand answers. But I couldn't even form the words. Everything I thought I knew about our life, about our marriage, was falling apart in front of me. That night, we didn't say much else. We sat there in silence, surrounded by the romantic ambiance of the restaurant, but it felt like the world was crashing down around us. The days that followed felt like a blur. I moved into the guest room, unable to face her. The house felt like a prison, filled with memories that now seemed tainted. Sarah begged me to give her a chance to explain, to fix things. "It was a mistake," she said over and over. "I love you, not him. Please, we can work through this." But how could I believe her? Every time she left the house, I wondered if she was meeting him. Every time her phone buzzed, I felt a pang of suspicion. Friends and family noticed the change. "Is everything okay?" they asked, concern etched on their faces. I couldn't bring myself to tell them the truth. I was too ashamed, too broken. One night, I decided I needed answers, not from Sarah, but from Mark. I found his number in her messages and called him. "Why?" I asked when he answered. "Why did you do this?" There was a long pause before he replied. "I didn't mean for it to happen," he said. "But Sarah reached out to me. She said she felt alone, that she needed someone to talk to." His words felt like another betrayal. Had I failed her that badly? In the weeks that followed, I wrestled with what to do. Part of me wanted to try to salvage our marriage, to believe that we could rebuild the trust that had been shattered. But another part of me couldn't let go of the anger and betrayal. Sarah started going to therapy, promising to do whatever it took to make things right. She wrote me letters, apologizing for the affair and begging for forgiveness. But every time I looked at her, all I could see were the lies, the betrayal. The love I once felt for her had been replaced by suspicion and sadness.